Hello and welcome to episode 8 of the Gangrene Against the World podcast. I'm Allan Simon. A lot of news in the NFL as we are less than a week away from the first game of the regular season, Thursday night between the defending Super Bowl champions and the Dallas Cowboys. And that Dallas Cowboys team is going to look a little different as they have made the Blockbuster trade they've been threatening to make all offseason, as this generation's greatest pass rusher has been traded to the Green Bay Packers. Micah Parsons has a new home. He also has a historic extension that he signs immediately with the Packers. In all, if you are a Dallas Cowboys fan, you have to be devastated and confused over how, for the best pass rusher in the league, and one of the great pass rushers we've seen in his prime, is traded away for a return less than the New York Jets got for Jamal Adams. 2 first-round picks is just not enough when it comes to the return for a player of Parsons' caliber. A lot of Jerry Jones's leverage was gone, though, because it's either trade him or he's a disgruntled player who's not going to get an extension on your team. You've made a decision he is not the future of your team, but a first-round pick in 2026 and 2027, 2 picks that are probably going to be in the high 20s and maybe low 30s if the Packers are as good as they can be. And you also get defensive tackle Kenny Clark, and they made sure on their announcement when they announced the trade for Kenny Clark that he is a former Pro Bowler, and that is true. But Kenny Clark is going to be 30. He had the worst season of his career last year, and he is not the difference maker he used to be by any means. And you can get 2 first-round picks for Micah Parsons, but all you're going to be doing is hoping to find a player like Micah Parsons. And it's not even like you're getting an enormous amount of picks back, where then you can say, hey, if we can find 2 or 3 Pro Bowl caliber guys with these 5-6 picks that we got back in return, then, it's hard to make a great player leave, but it saves us a lot of money and it's fine. That is not the case for this trade. This is not the Herschel Walker trade. This is not getting a handful of picks and multiple players back, which led to the Cowboys dynasty. This is 2 picks. And now the Cowboys have 4 first-round picks over the next 2 years, and that's great. But you have a quarterback who you pay a lot of money. You have skill guys who you've had to extend. You need to have an elite defense in order to win in the NFL. And right now you've traded away your best player, one of the top 5 players in the NFL. You could argue he's the best player in the NFL. And he goes to the Packers. Now, the Packers have an enormous amount of talent on defense as it is. They were one of the favorites to come out of the NFC before this deal. And they are now, to me, the top 1 or 2 favorites to make the Super Bowl from the NFC. So this show is all about going over my predictions for the 2025 NFL season. I'm going to give you my division picks. I'm going to also give you some betting odds that I like that I would take in terms of season-long bets, and then also give you my Super Bowl 60 prediction. So let's start in the AFC East. The AFC East is going to be won by the Buffalo Bills. I don't see there being a lot of competition. This division is as bad as it's ever been. I think the Dolphins are ready to take a big step back, and they will probably be the first team to need a new head coach. New England, I do like Vrabel. If you told me they sneak and win 9 games this year and Drake May takes a big step up, I could buy into that, but I do not see them winning 10 games. I think the Bills, no matter how dysfunctional they can be, they have a head coach who just seems to be always a bad game away in the playoffs from being fired. He's still there. They are the class of the AFC East by far. Josh Allen is a top 3 player in the NFL. I think somehow he can be considered underrated. I don't think it's appreciated just how much, with the skill guys he has around him, he does day in and day out to really just put the whole team on his back. There are a lot of good quarterbacks in the AFC. The AFC is a really tough path to make the Super Bowl from, but in terms of winning the division, the Buffalo Bills are in the right division. I think they're going to win double-digit games again this year. Josh Allen certainly could repeat as the MVP. I'd expect the Patriots to finish second, and the Jets and Dolphins will battle for the bottom of that division, and we'll go over win totals for the Jets next week. So the Bills win the East. Let's go to the North. The North is interesting. You've got 3 high-caliber teams. The Ravens just seem to always be a season away from making the big leap. The Bengals, no matter what happens, Joe Burrow wills that team to winning enough games to be in playoff contention. The Steelers have a long history, obviously, of making the playoffs consistently under Tomlin. There's a lot of frustration about why they can't take the next step. And they bring in, of course, Aaron Rodgers, who is another year removed from his Achilles injury. And I think the Steelers certainly are an intriguing option in the AFC North. Mike Tomlin has the streak of non-losing seasons. I don't know if that streak will be broken this year. I can see the Steelers winning 9 games. But in terms of the division, it comes down to me, the Ravens and the Bengals. And the Bengals have an offense that is full of weapons. You know, Joe Burrow has Jamar Chase, has T. Higgins. Will it be enough to win the games necessary? I don't think so. I think this is the year for Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. I think this is the year they finally take that big leap and go from one of the top 4 best teams in the AFC to potentially making a run to the Super Bowl. I would expect the Ravens to go ahead and win the AFC North. AFC South, you know, the AFC South invitational playoff game that's always played on that first Saturday of the playoffs looks to be destined for the same thing this year. The Jaguars, unless they can take a huge leap with, you know, two-way star Travis Hunter, and can Trevor Lawrence, you know, take all the critics and put it behind him and show that he is a top 10, top 15 quarterback in the NFL. They have a really tough early schedule. I could see the Jaguars starting real slow. You look at the Colts, Daniel Jones has made the playoffs once before in his career. I don't know if Jones is the long-term answer there. They clearly chose Anthony Richardson as not, which I don't think Richardson was really given a fair shot to grow and become an NFL quarterback. He will probably find a different opportunity somewhere over the next couple of years. But outside Jonathan Taylor and Michael Pittman, there are not a lot of weapons on the Colts. There are not a lot of answers on that offensive line. So I do not see Daniel Jones making that leap. And then the other team in the division, besides the team that I'm about to say is going to win it, is the Tennessee Titans. They could easily be the worst team in the NFL. Cam Ward, I think, is going to have a rough first year. Doesn't mean he can't be a good quarterback, but he's going to get hit a lot. There is not a lot of talent around him. They have an aging running back, and overall, the Titans are in rough shape, which means, once again, the Houston Texans, I believe, are going to win the AFC South. And C.J. Stroud and DeMeco Ryans seem to be an exciting coach-quarterback combo for years to come. Do they have enough talent on the offensive line to keep him safe? Well, they have enough to win this division. Now moving to the AFC West, some interesting odds for this one. You can get Kansas City at just -115 to win the division. And in terms of the runaway favorites, those are the best odds. So if you want to throw a little money down on the Chiefs, I would not say it's a terrible pick. That division is interesting. The Broncos, a lot of folks are high on them. This could be a year that Bo Nix really develops. They've had a good defense. They certainly have some skill position players that are exciting. But in order to say that they're about to take the leap to win this division or make the playoffs, you have to think that Bo Nix is going to become a top 15 quarterback. I don't think he's ready for that. The one team to look for is the Chargers. Chargers are well coached. They have a really good quarterback in Justin Herbert. Herbert had a rough start to the year last year. He had a great end to the year. They did lose Rashawn Slater for the year, which is rough. So you have the highest paid offensive lineman who they just extended, and now he's out for the season. They're going to run the ball a lot. Does seem like their backfield's going to be healthy enough to start the year. Najee Harris was not put on the IR to start the season. So they're going to run the ball a lot. Do they have enough defense to slow down the Chiefs in their games this year? I'm not sure. I don't think they're going to win the division, but I do think they're probably the most interesting bet. If you're looking for a second team from this division to come out, I think that would be the Chargers. Then you have the Raiders. The Raiders are going to be very, very bad this year. They are not going to win a lot of games. I expect them to have a high draft pick this year. And all that means the Kansas City Chiefs are going to win the division. Travis Kelce, who I guess is engaged now, is trying to find a swan song, most likely, to end his career. This might be it for Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes, all he does is win big games over and over and over again. So will he go ahead and win the division again? I say yes, but the path to a Super Bowl return for the Chiefs is going to be rough this season. So for the AFC, the division winners, I got the Buffalo Bills, the Baltimore Ravens, the Houston Texans, and the Kansas City Chiefs. Not a lot of surprises there. In terms of the wildcard teams, I think we're going to see the Cincinnati Bengals there once again. I'm choosing the Los Angeles Chargers to be a wildcard team. And last but not least, I think Aaron Rodgers has one more playoff trip in him. I do think the Steelers win enough games. They probably get in with around 9 wins, and they'll be representing the wild card. So Bills, Ravens, Texans, Chiefs for the division, Bengals, Chargers, Steelers coming out of the wild card for the AFC. So let's move to the NFC. The defending Super Bowl champions, they kick things off against the Cowboys in an NFC East battle on Thursday. They are the odds-on favorites to win that division. They obviously, as we talked about last week, have an explosive offense. They run the ball more than any team has run the ball in recent history. But right there, the Washington Commanders. And I see 2 paths for the Commanders. Either a really tough start, and maybe with the expectations on them, they falter, or they take a giant leap. I think they're going to take a big leap this season. I think that the Commanders are going to win the NFC East. There has not been a repeat NFC East champion since the Eagles did it in the early 2000s. The last time was 2004. So that tells you that it's probably not going to happen again this year. So I think the Commanders are going to take the division. The Cowboys, I think, are in rough shape. Dak Prescott, can he stay healthy, and is there enough talent around him outside of CeeDee Lamb for them to put up enough points to keep a defense supported that now just lost the best defensive player in football? If I'm Brian Schottenheimer, I'm pretty upset. I finally get the opportunity to be the head coach of the Cowboys, to be a head coach in the NFL. And I think it's fair to ask, will Schottenheimer even be around to see the benefits of those 2 first-round picks they got for Parsons? Last but not least, the Giants. I think the Giants are still in rebuild mode. Their roster is better than it was last year. They have the longest odds to win the division for good reason. I think the Giants are likely going to finish somewhere around 5 wins, but it doesn't mean that we don't start to see the emergence of Jackson Dart. I think if they start off slow enough, Russell Wilson will probably get benched for Dart, because you're going to want to see if this young quarterback is your future. So for the NFC East, I'm taking the Washington Commanders to win the division. The NFC North, I already had this picked before the news last night, but it just makes it a little bit easier. Probably the most compelling division in all of the NFL, with the Packers, the Lions, and the Vikings, all with legitimate shots to come out of that division and to make runs in the playoffs. The Vikings are putting everything behind J.J. McCarthy. They move on from Sam Darnold. My guess is that they can get the same sort of performance out of McCarthy as they did from Sam Darnold. I was not super impressed with McCarthy coming out of college. He then, of course, gets hurt and misses a whole year, which leads to the Sam Darnold stopgap season. Receivers galore. They can move the ball on the ground still. It is a talented team with a good head coach in O'Connell. The Detroit Lions, to me, this is the year the Lions take a step back. They've been fighting tooth and nail to win divisions. They made a nice run a couple years ago and got close to making a Super Bowl appearance. This just feels like a schedule that's going to beat them up. They play the Chiefs this year. They play the Ravens. They played the Eagles. It is a really tough schedule, and you got to play the Lions and the Vikings twice as well. I think they're going to have a rough go about it. I actually think this is the year the Detroit Lions do not make the playoffs, and they'll be joined by the Chicago Bears with their former offensive coordinator, Ben Johnson, as the head coach. The Bears are just going to have a hard time because that division's really good. I actually think the Bears could be pretty decent this year, but they have a tough schedule as well. They have to go ahead and play the Packers, the Lions, and the Vikings as 6 of their games this season. I think this is a year where maybe you hear more noise around Caleb Williams. How does he handle another season of adversity? He does not seem to be the toughest guy in the world in terms of overcoming things. So I think Ben Johnson, who is certainly a unique dude in his own right, and he's going to face a lot of heat in Chicago early on if that offense doesn't click like we saw it click in Detroit. So Chicago probably finishes last in this division. But overall, the Green Bay Packers, they're the best team in the division. They might be the best team in the NFC. They certainly have a defense that really, really impresses you. We obviously know that Micah Parsons is the highest rated pass rusher in all of the NFL. You know who's second? It'll be the guy who's lining up on the other side of that defensive line, Edgerrin Cooper. He has the second highest pass rush grade in the NFL. That defensive line with Rashawn Gary, there's just a lot of talent on that defense. Keyshawn Nixon and Xavier McKinney in the secondary. This team's going to turn the ball over a lot, and they're going to see some great opportunities to win a lot of football games. They're going to win the division. You can still get them at plus odds just because the division is so challenging, but I think that's good money to throw towards the Packers. And now we have the NFC South. The NFC South is an interesting one. Obviously, it's been the Tampa Bay Buccaneers division for a little bit. They have won back-to-back division titles. Baker Mayfield is leading that offense. Baker Mayfield has quietly become an extremely stable quarterback for this team. They came over big injuries on the offensive line last year. Can they improve this year? They have two very talented receivers on either side of Baker Mayfield to throw to. But I don't think this is the year the Buccaneers win their third straight division title. To me, I would pick the Atlanta Falcons to come out of the NFC South. Another year for Michael Penix in the NFL. He has Bijan Robinson, who's right next to him, who could be the offensive player of the year. They bolstered the defensive line by adding Leonard Floyd, as well as first-round picks Jalen Walker and James Pierce Jr. The division is weak. Their schedule is very favorable. I think that the Falcons are going to take the NFC South this season. I don't think that the Carolina Panthers are anyone to worry about. Bryce Young, it's probably his last chance to show that he can be the starter on this team in the long term. They did add McKillen to the offense as well to give him a big target. He won't do enough, though, to bring that Panthers team to anywhere near 7-8 wins. I think they'll be towards the bottom of the NFC. And the worst team in that division is going to be the New Orleans Saints. Kellen Moore named Spencer Rattler the starting quarterback. I don't think that's going to go very well. So their rookie quarterback will not get a go at it to start things, although I expect to see him as we advance through the season. But look for the Saints to be one of the worst teams in the NFL. Last division, let's look at the NFC West. So the two teams at the top there are obviously going to be the Rams and the 49ers. The Seahawks did swap out Geno Smith for Sam Darnold. I don't know with the exit of DK Metcalf and just the absence of good offensive talent on this team, I do not expect Darnold to have the same type of year as he did with the Vikings. So the Seahawks, although interesting, I would not pick them to compete for the division. The Cardinals and Kyler Murray, I don't know. Kyler Murray is really one of the most frustrating quarterbacks in the league. He's got plenty of talent. He shows flashes. His numbers will look good. He's a good option in fantasy football. Just not enough to lead a team, I think, to a division title. So you have the Rams, who all of their success really hinges on the health of Matt Stafford. Does Matthew Stafford have another season in him in the NFL? They added Devontae Adams with losing some veteran wide receivers. So they bring Adams in, Puka Nacua, another season of him now. He's certainly not going to surprise anyone. He is going to be a focal point of that offense. But I think the team that wins the division is the San Francisco 49ers. If you look at their history, they have bounced back from having down seasons before. In 2020, they missed the playoffs. They went 6-10. They then come back and make the NFC Championship game 3 years in a row. They, of course, went to the Super Bowl in 2023. Last year was a disappointment. They do extend Brock Purdy to a 5-year, $265 million extension. They extend Fred Warner and George Kittle along with Jawan Jennings. They have a backup in Mac Jones that if Purdy gets hurt again, could at least be an option. I think that the Niners have enough to take the division. And for the Rams, I think they still have an opportunity to make the playoffs. I do think this is Matthew Stafford's last year, but it's going to be an uphill battle. The 49ers are going to be back with a vengeance this year, and I think they take the NFC West. So in the NFC, I have the division winners being the Washington Commanders, the Green Bay Packers, the Atlanta Falcons, and the San Francisco 49ers. Wildcard teams this year, I have the Philadelphia Eagles, the Minnesota Vikings, and the Los Angeles Rams sneaking in there at the end. The NFC is honestly a little weak. This is a weaker conference. They do not have the big-time quarterbacks in your way like they do in the AFC. And because of that, as we look at who's going to come out of the conference, I think the Green Bay Packers are going to win the NFC Championship over the Philadelphia Eagles in 2025. I had that written down yesterday morning before the trade. I still believe it, and I think Jordan Love can take another huge leap. We talked to Mike Wadsworth at the beginning of the preseason. We know that it's the magical 6th year for Green Bay quarterbacks. In the past, Bart Starr and Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers all won Super Bowls in their 6 seasons, so why can't Jordan Love do it as well? In the AFC, it's finally Lamar Jackson's time. I think Lamar Jackson is going to get through the AFC. He'll have an opportunity to beat the Bills or the Bengals on their way to the AFC Conference Championship game against the Chiefs. And I think Lamar Jackson slays the dragon and makes it to the Super Bowl. And with that said, my Super Bowl 60 prediction is going to be the Green Bay Packers over the Baltimore Ravens. That's how I felt yesterday before the trade. It's how I definitely feel now. They can rush to the passer better than any other team in the league, and they can throw the ball as well as any team in the league. That is a good combination for making a Super Bowl run. They can turn the ball over a ton. I think the Green Bay Packers are going to win Super Bowl 60 over the Ravens and add to their Vince Lombardi trophy collection. So now I just want to look at some betting picks for season-long bets in the NFL, and as Furio told the former proprietor of the Crazy Horse, bet with your head, not over it. I think for the one that stands out, go ahead and get the Falcons at plus 230 right now. I think they have a really good chance considering their schedule and considering how weak that division is. In the AFC West, right now the Chiefs, you get them at minus 115. Those would be my 2 divisional picks. In terms of the Super Bowl, you can get the Green Bay Packers at plus 1200 right now. I think they're the favorites from the NFC. I know that the Eagles are still there and the Eagles are really talented, but Green Bay has all the makings to win the Super Bowl. They're my prediction. So, I'm going to put a little bit of money down on them at plus 1200. Another bet in terms of season-long win totals that I like a lot, go ahead and take the Carolina Panthers under 6.5 wins. I think they finished between 4 and 6 wins this season. You can get that at plus 110. So take the Panthers win total under 6.5. You can also get the Chicago Bears under 7.5 wins at plus 115. I think they'll be at the bottom of that division. I think that's a pretty good bet as well. And then the big one for me, I think this is the year the Lions take a step down. I think Jared Goff has played to the top of his potential for multiple years now. He does not have Ben Johnson anymore. You can get the Lions under 9.5 wins at plus 105. So that would be my pick for the season-long win totals in 2025. Overall, excited to have football back next Thursday. Coming up next week on the Gangrene Against the World podcast, we'll have the Jets preview show at the beginning of the week, and then we have our first guest on for the regular season as the Jets open up the 2025 season against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Aaron Rodgers coming to MetLife, 1 p.m. on Sunday. Can't wait for that. Football season is right around the corner. We're almost there. This has been episode 8 of the Gangrene Against the World podcast. I'm Allan Simon. Thank you for listening.